Hi guys, this is Joy from Joy of Crafting, and I'm here to give you a quick tip on how I have decided to catalog and organize my inks. I have been collecting for a few years and I have a few different colors of inks, but I've never really taken the time to organize them or stamp all of them out so I can actually see what the color looks like. And because I haven't done that, I've had a few mishaps where I have actually thought the color was the color on the top and it really wasn't. And when I inked it out, it totally ruined my card or my scrapbook layout or whatever I was inking on. And I got really tired of wasting product. So I went out and searched for a way to remedy this. And I also have realized I have a really big collection in my craft room and I need to be organized. And this is a great way for me to do that. So the first thing I found was the page protectors people use when they coin collect. So these are all from Amazon. I ordered a big stack of them and they are a little bit bigger than 2x2 squares. And it's a perfect way to organize each of your ink pads. So what I decided to do is I found the paper that I use the most, which is the Whisper White paper, and I cut it into 2x2 squares. And I used a 12x12 sheet, so you get quite a few 2x2 squares out of a 12x12 sheet of Whisper White. You know, you want to use what you're going to be stamping on when you're doing this because you want to know exactly what that ink is going to do on that paper. Because if you stamp it on printer paper, it's going to look way different than if you stamp it on the actual heavyweight cardstock. Or if you're going to do watercolor and you're doing your watercolor pencils, you're going to want to do it on watercolor paper and not on regular cardstock because it's going to look way different. All right, next I want to show you three colors I've stamped out, which is Cherry Cobbler, Cajun Craze, and Rio Red. They're all in the red families, but are very different in color. So it's really nice to see the difference in their color because I know I'm not going to use Cajun Craze on a Christmas card because it's not the right red. So this is a good reason for cataloging. But another reason I use cataloging is because I love to blend. And what is blending? Blending is using a blending brush, which you see right here, or a sponge dauber or a sponge, and you dab your ink and you blend the color onto your paper. So this is great for making backgrounds or highlighting a stamped image or coloring in an image, but I really like blending and it does such a very different thing on a piece of paper than stamping. So that's why I always, on the back side of my 2x2 square, I like to put the blended color. I actually find that the blended color goes a lot closer to the actual ink pad color that is on the top, and it's much lighter than it would if you were stamping it out. So you can see here that's Cherry Cobbler on the left here that I'm pointing to, and you can see it's a lot lighter color when you blend it out compared to that stamped image. Okay, let's actually stamp out one of our 2x2 squares. Again, I'm using Whisper White cardstock, and you use whatever cardstock that you like to use. I'm using 2x2 because it fits nicely into those little squares, but if you want to use business card size, you can do that. Whatever you feel you need for size, you can do. This image that I'm using is a flower, and it's a fairly solid image, and that's what you want because you want the most color. If you have an outline, you're not going to get the full color, whereas if you have a solid, it's much easier to see the color up and center. You want your blender brush and a pen, so you're going to do your blending on your back. This photopolymer stamp is stained, but you also want to make sure your stamp is cleaned off before you use it so you don't get any other colors mixed in, which will change the actual color. I was just showing you my little stamp pad I use. You always need to remember with a photopolymer stamp, you need to have something squishy underneath to help you get a crisper image. I'm going to also show you my ink pad that I'm doing today at its specific point, which is a brand new ink pad. Just took the plastic off. So I needed to catalog that one. So whenever you stamp, you dab it down and then flip it over before you stamp it down. Make sure there isn't ink all over the stamped image and you don't have any ink around on the block or any place you don't want it, which could then transfer onto your paper. So if there is any on my block, I just swoosh it off with a little Kleenex or whatever, and then I don't have any smudges. As you can tell, now that once you stamp it down, it is substantially darker, and it is going to dry a little bit darker. All right, let's do our last part, which is blending. And here's my Amazon blender brush. Again, they're around 20 bucks. You can get all different funky colors of them, and the bristles are nice and soft and really tight together, so it's the perfect thing to blend on a card. And when you're going to blend, you always want to make sure you have a nice scrap piece of paper and a microfiber cloth on hand. The scrap piece of paper, you can actually clean your brush off that way, or scrape it off or blend it off onto a microfiber cloth, which I'm showing you right here, mine is very dirty. I also use my scrap piece of paper to just dab off any excess ink so I don't make a big smudge or have too dark of a color in my middle. So here I am. I'm going to show you how I start out. When I usually start out going in a circular motion, and I like to put my finger on top of the head of the brush so I have better control. Again, with blending, you're blending your color in. So you want it a little bit lighter than what you would normally stamp with. So as you can tell, a lot of times when I blend, I do it multiple times to get the perfect color, because a lot of times it'll come out fairly light, especially with the lighter colors that we have, like the pinks and things like that. And as you can see, there's my little blend. You can do the whole square, or you can just do that little circle like I did, just to get an idea of what the color would look like. And again, you can tell the blended areas are closer to the outside of the Stampin' Up! Pad than the actual stamped image. All right, so once I'm done blending and stamping the image on the other side, I need to label it. So I will label the blended side as blended, and I can put specific point on the back, but a lot of times we'll just put it on the front, in front of the stamped image. Then I have to decide how I want to organize my images. You can organize them in rainbow color, so put your blues together, your greens together, from darkest to lightest, lightest to darkest, whatever works. For me, I've decided to put my catalog in order of color collection, which is what Stampin' Up! Uses to put all the colors into, or color families, I guess you want to call it. So the color collection consists of neutrals, subtles, brights, regals, and in color. So I just felt like it would work the best for me, and I'm going to try it out and see if it works. I can always change it. But if you don't want to have an actual catalog with all your colors in them, you can really just take your little square and glue it onto the back side of your ink pad. That is the best way to do it. It's right there, easy access, and it's not going to go anywhere if you use some really great glue. You don't have to use a 2x2 square then. You can just stamp your image and cut it out, and then just do a little strip with some blending on it if you want the blended part. If you don't, just leave it off. I find that putting it on the back of the ink pack works a lot better than putting it on the front. I find the front will catch on things, and it just, for me, I just don't like it on the front. So you got to figure out your way, but thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.